Hey, hello, welcome to My Hero Academia, Chapter 335 Review. Now, this chapter is titled Zygotes. And last time was Star and Stripe or Kathleen's Bale last-ditch effort to destroy Shigaraki all for one, whatever you want to call him. And whenever she used her quirk New Order to make the rule of New Order revolts against other quirks, or taking Shigaraki out. Shigaraki tried to pass it on to somebody, and it didn't work. And, oh yeah, some dude, Kaji, I'm pretty sure was his name, he got taken out, and that was always fun. And, yeah, we saw Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki in the last panel of that chapter. Now, this chapter is titled Zygotes, like I said, and we see All Might holding a egg in his hand on the title page. And this chapter starts off with Deku saying, wait, so Star dealt lasting damage to Shigaraki? As All Might says, data analysis from the American fighter jets tells us that when Shigaraki stole a New Order, it ate him away from the inside like a poison. Evidence suggests that New Order ravaged a considerable number of the quirks held in his massive library. And Jiro says, okay, so that means, and Yayorozu follows up the sentence, right now's the world's best chance to take him out. And then also, I've noticed something here in the past few chapters that Yayorozu has had her hair down. I don't know if that's just a change Horikoshi's wanting to draw all of a sudden, but I know in the past she normally has it up in a ponytail, but I just figured I'd say that here fast. And it continues, the mass civilization evacuation effort continues, and all remaining heroes are now out on the hunt for villains. As we see Gang Orca, Fat Gum, the Wild Pussycats, Rocklock, Manual, Wash, Kamui Woods, Edgeshot, and Mount Lady, sort of walking, or in Ectoplasm, I'm pretty sure, looking around for any villains in multiple different spots. And All Might continues to say, All for One may have suffered this setback, but figuring out his next move is nearly impossible. Whether we find him or he comes to us, full mobilization and all-out war is inevitable. Here's what you're up against. He may be silenced for the moment, but Tomoe Shigaraki is still the deadliest villain out there. Then there's All for One himself, his original body, plus Dabi, the madman with the flames as fierce as his endeavors. Young Himiko Toga, a consistent thorn in our side, and the six remaining near Heian Nomu. The remains of the Liberation Front. And then they're yet to be apprehended, escaped convicts who serve All for One. And Shoji says, it's safe to assume that the list goes on, as All Might says, yep, they'll likely amass more allies. As he also says, meanwhile, less than half of those on our side remain to face this threat. It pains me to say, just after Star's untimely death in the line of duty, but you have to protect and hold everything you hold dear to y'all. I would ask you to fortify yourselves using this extension we've been giving. As Bakugo yells, already way ahead of you. As then Uraraka and Ida say, what he said, you haven't noticed because you and Deku left school All Might, and when you do return, you leave without a moment's notice. That's what Ida follows up with. And Ojiro says, in the wake of Gunga and Jaku, we've been doing intensive training with the Pussycats. And Mineta says, as much as we can without leaving the dorms. And Tokiyami says, where Midoriya goes, we follow. Undaunted, we shall fight until Shigaraki has fallen. And Ashido says, not daunted at all. As Deku says, Kachan and the others agreed to spar for me to help me to complete One for All. As Bakugo goes, huh? I never said that. I did some prison breaker. Did you rip your ears off? And Sado says, I thought you'd change, Bakugo. And Bakugo says, all I want to know is how much punch my new cluster moves are packing. taking on All for One is just another tick on the box to Shigaraki, as with what looks like to be a really big hand that Todoroki already has. Todoroki just says, "That's right," as Kirishima points and says, "Hey, don't forget you're about to beat the snot out of me too." As Sero says, "You ain't ready to give up the title of Resident Punching Bag." As there's just some more dialogue going back and forth with Kirishima saying, "No, I see you take some good pounding, so I want to get even harder." And somebody says, "We gotta honor Star's last wishes. Why don't we take this out to the courtyard? How dare that piece of crap take my star from me? Star fought for all of us, Mineta." And All Might thinks, "Well, shall I begin my wards?" Back to the beginning of the series, in Volume 2, where they did the first little training exercise, where they had to fight on the 2-on-2 matches, heroes and villains to get the bombs. And All Might says, "The zygotes I met that day have long since hatched. They refused to succumb to the raging storm, and now they spread their wings to reassure me. All for One, I'll say it again, you've made a foolish move. Those foolish villains picked the wrong fight, because Class 1A is a mighty force to behold. Know that, All for One." As we come back, and we cut back to the villain's hideout, as we see Shigaraki just yelling in anguish on the floor, just yelling and screaming, as we see Toga, Spinner, and Dobby in a room with All for One, and a few of the Nihon Nomu, as All for One says, "Worry not, my other self, all will be well. Your quirk factors are simply worn and weary after that frax within you." And Shigaraki just goes, "Kill, kill, kill them all, hate them. As long as a single person still remembers All my stupid face, I'll never know peace from this torment." As All for One thinks and says, "Our minds are fusing. I can sense that much. That violent rage, yes, I share Tamura's hatred now." As he says, There, this is all for the best. New Order refused to be stolen, but we've cleared away what was perhaps our most formidable obstacle. Let that light in your heart. No sense in dwelling on a single foiled plot. I'm sorry to have to do this to you after all your prepping, but we will need all of you to stay on rest and stand by a bit longer." As Dobby looks and says, "Nah, screw that. Another day of dear old Dad spurting around under the sun. I can't stand it." As All for One says, "My dear Toya, we have much in common, you and I, but let me tell you how we differ. Listen well. When I find myself a goal, I'm sure to plan out a number of routes to get to that goal, we say. To be exact, I weave my plots years or even decades prior, so I may employ a viable route when the time comes. A route that inevitably archives my ends. Now the advent of my perfected vessel is delayed, and UA is welcomed Zuku Midoriya back into its sturdy walls. But I have what you lack, Toya. Our friends to spare." As we sort of phase out from the cave we're looking at, or that they're in, and we sort of go outside. We cross over some mountains and some trees, and it appears that what they're heading towards is UA, and we see the UA border in the distance, and then we see the Class 1A dorms. As it speeds up in there, and it looks, and there's a mysterious, invisible figure with gloves on, standing in UA. And that's where the chapter ends. Now, this figure that I was talking about, I am almost sure it's Hagakure. That's the character in Volume 21. That's why I've got it sitting like that, so you can tell. Because there's not much else to notice about her. But just the way that the whole thing focuses on the Class 1A dorms and the gloves that looked like that Hagakure is used for the series, I am pretty sure it's her, and I would, if it's not, alright then, but I think it is. And that's really all I gotta say on the chapter. I guess we finally know who the UA traitor is, but I think we could have all figured that out a long time ago, that it was Hagakure. I mean, who else would it have sort of been? I mean, you can't always focus on every member of Class 1A, but at a certain point you have to realize it's none of the big three. It's not Deku, it's not Todoroki, it's not Kachan, it's not Ida or Ochako or Froppy. It's not Ashido, it's not Kirishima, it's not, who else do I've got left? Yaoyorozu, it's not Kaminari, it's not Mineta, it could be Sato, it could be Ojiro, it could be Koda, and Hagakure was the only other one of those four, and it's like, nah, I don't think it's you, but yeah, this is just finally that final nail in the coffin. It's not Shoji. It's finally that final nail in the coffin. Say, all right, there wasn't any of them. And the recent prevalence that Ojiro has had on the story, I wouldn't think it would be him, but it's finally interesting to see that it is Hagakure in the long run. That it's her, which, all right. And we'll just have to see where the next chapter leads us. I don't know what else to say here. So yeah, thank you for watching. Interesting chapter with the whole, oh, these zygotes have bloomed, and all for one giving a speech of, oh, Toya, I have what you lacked. I have friends. One that is living in with the main hero of the story. Yeah, and I wonder if this whole UA traitor thing is going to turn out to be that, who's her face, Hagakure sort of comes up and then looks and says, oh no, I want to be friends with you guys some more, and that's that. It's not Jiro either, that's an art character I've forgotten so far on this list of all the UA characters. So yeah, thanks for watching, and that's all I gotta say. Or no, if I miss any more I can think of. I didn't say it wasn't Tokoyami. It wasn't not Tokoyami. Who else? Well, it's not Sero, or it could be Sero. Sero's in at like bottom 5. It's just like, who are you? But yeah, thank you for watching, and this is Glowplasma231 out.